You just got that raise you've been waiting for. Maybe it's 10%, maybe even 20%. You're thinking, finally, this is it. My money problems are over. Fast forward 6 months, and somehow you're still broke, still living paycheck to paycheck, still stressed about money. What happened? If this sounds painfully familiar, you're not alone. We're about to expose the invisible traps that keep you financially stuck even as your income grows. Here's the brutal truth. For most people, a raise doesn't fix being broke. It just makes you broke at a higher income level. I know that sounds insane. How can someone making $75,000 a year be just as financially stressed as they were at $50,000? It defies logic. But this exact pattern affects millions of people every single year. They climb the salary ladder and somehow their bank account stays stubbornly at zero. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology, the lifestyle traps, and the financial blind spots that keep people stuck in this vicious cycle. Because understanding why this happens is the first step to breaking free. Let's start with the biggest culprit, lifestyle creep. This is the silent killer of wealth, and it's so subtle you don't even notice it happening. Here's how it works. Let's say you're making $50,000 a year. You're driving a 2015 Honda Civic with 120,000 miles on it. It's paid off, runs fine, but it's nothing fancy. You're renting a decent one-bedroom apartment for $1,200 a month. You eat out maybe twice a week. Life is manageable but tight. Then boom, you get promoted. Suddenly you're making $65,000. That's an extra $15,000 a year before taxes. After federal taxes, state taxes, and FICA, you're probably taking home about $900 to $1,000 more per month. You should be doing way better now, right? But here's what actually happens for so many. Within 3 months, you start thinking, you know what? I deserve a nicer car. I've been working my tail off. So you trade in that paid-off Civic for a lease on a brand new BMW. Hey, it's only $450 a month, and you got the raise so you can afford it. Then you look around your apartment and think, this place is kind of small. My coworkers live in that nice complex across town with the gym and the pool. So you upgrade to $1,600 apartment. That's only $400 more a month, no big deal. Oh, and now that you're making more money, you can't be seen in the same clothes you wore when you were poor. So you start shopping at higher-end stores. You subscribe to a meal kit service because successful people don't eat cheap food. You upgrade your phone every year instead of every 3. Maybe you add a premium gym membership for $200 a month because you deserve the best. Let's do the math on that. The new car lease, $450. The apartment upgrade, $400. The new wardrobe, meal kits, better phone plan, and premium gym, let's conservatively say another $300 a month. That's $1,150 in new monthly expenses. But remember, you only took home about $900 to $1,000 more after taxes. You just got a raise and somehow ended up spending more than you gained. You actually have less money left over at the end of the month than you did before. That's lifestyle creep. It's insidious, it's everywhere, and it's backed by decades of research showing that people almost instinctively adjust their spending upward to match any income increase. Now let's talk about the second trap, using a raise to justify more debt. According to a 2023 report from Lending Club, about 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. But here's the shocking part. Nearly half of people making over $100,000 a year are also living paycheck to paycheck. The biggest reason? Debt. When you get a raise, your existing debt obligations don't change. That $15,000 in credit card debt charging you 22% interest? Still there. Those student loans? Still there. But here's the twisted logic that kicks in. Now that I'm making more money, I can handle more debt. So instead of using that raise to aggressively pay down the debt that's been drowning you, people see it as permission to borrow more. They get approved for higher credit limits and immediately max them out. They finance furniture, electronics, vacations, anything and everything. When you're paying $800 a month in car payments, $400 in minimum credit card payments, and $600 in student loans, it doesn't matter if you're making $50,000 or $100,000. You're trapped in a cycle of payments. A raise doesn't fix debt. Only a strategic plan fixes debt. Now, to be clear, some people face real structural challenges: stagnant wages that haven't kept up with inflation, skyrocketing housing costs, or unexpected medical bills. Those are real issues, but for the many who do get raises and still feel broke, these behavioral traps are the anchor keeping them underwater. This brings us to trap number 3, and it's an uncomfortable one. Humans are comparison machines. It's built into our psychology. You get promoted to manager and suddenly you're hanging out with other managers. They drive Teslas, you drive a Civic. They vacation in Cabo, you vacation at your parents' house. And somewhere deep in your brain, a voice whispers, "You're supposed to be at their level now. Why don't you look like you belong?" So you start spending to match their lifestyle, not because you need those things, but because you feel like you should have them. This is amplified 1,000 times by social media. Everyone on Instagram is living their best life. What you don't see is the credit card statement, the anxiety, and the fact that many of those experiences are financed. It's not about the stuff, it's about status, and status is expensive. Here's the secret. Many people who have built serious wealth focus on their net worth, not on looking wealthy. They might drive a paid-off used car and live modestly relative to their income, investing the difference. Meanwhile, the people trying to look wealthy often have impressive cars in the driveway and empty retirement accounts. One depreciates, the other grows. Finally, let's address the elephant in the room. Most of us never learned how money actually works. We weren't taught budgeting in school. No one explained the difference between an asset and a liability. We don't understand compound interest or how retirement accounts function. So when we get more money, we just spend more money because that's the only tool we have. Here's what should happen when you get a raise. First, you figure out how much you're actually getting after taxes. Second, you adjust your budget before you adjust your lifestyle. You decide how much of that raise goes to savings, how much to debt payoff, and how much to retirement. Then, and only then, do you decide how much you can responsibly increase your lifestyle spending. The smartest thing to do is usually boring. Increase your 401k contribution, build a 6-month emergency fund, pay off high-interest debt, invest in index funds. But boring doesn't feel as good as a new car. Boring doesn't get likes on Instagram. It doesn't give you that immediate dopamine hit. So people choose the hit over financial security, and that's why they stay stuck. All right, enough of the problem. Let's talk about solutions. If you want to break this cycle, here's a game plan. Step 1, automate your financial priorities. The moment you get a raise, set up automatic transfers. Aim to save or invest at least 20% of the new money. If that's too much, start with 10%. The key is to make it automatic so the money moves before you can spend it. You cannot spend what you never see. Step 2, track every dollar. Use an app, use a spreadsheet, I don't care, but know where your money is going. Studies show that people who track their spending spend 15 to 20% less on average. Awareness is the enemy of bad spending habits. Step 3, implement the 90-day rule. Got a raise? Great. Don't change anything about your lifestyle for 90 days. Live like you didn't get it. Bank that extra money. After 90 days have passed, you can thoughtfully decide if there's something worth upgrading. This cooling off period is your defense against impulsive lifestyle inflation. Step 4, flick the 50-30-20 rule. Instead of spending 50% of your raise on lifestyle upgrades, try putting 50% towards your financial future, debt, savings, investments, and spending a maximum of 20 to 30% on lifestyle. Pay yourself first, then enjoy the upgrade. Step 5, prioritize net worth over looking wealthy. Shift your entire focus from appearing successful to being successful. Real wealth is invisible. It's in your investment accounts, your paid-off home, your growing net worth. Nobody sees that on social media, but it's what actually matters when you're 65 and want to retire, or when you lose your job and need a safety net. And step 6, question every upgrade. Before you increase any recurring expense, ask yourself, will this actually make me happier in 6 months, or am I just trying to keep up with someone else? Here's the bottom line. A raise is a tool, just like a hammer. You can use it to build wealth, or you can use it to nail yourself further into financial stress. The choice is yours. If you're tired of the hamster wheel of making more and somehow having less, it's time to change the game. It's time to get intentional. The people who break free from financial stress aren't always the ones who make the most money. They're the ones who keep the most money. They build the gap between what they earn and what they spend, and they invest that difference. That gap is where true financial freedom is found, and it's a freedom that no new car or fancy apartment can ever buy.